Hi, what's up? My name is Casey, and in this video I'm going to be talking about ESFJs and how to deal with them. First and foremost, I'm an ENFJ, Enneagram type 6 wing 7, and I'm going to be giving my opinion on ESFJs because I know quite a number of them in my life, and I would say that one of them, my parents happen to be one of my parents happen to be an ESFJ. Besides that, I have quite a number of ESFJ friends, and I've also been romantically interested in quite a number of ESFJs as well, although not quite successfully. However, this isn't going to be quite much it's not going to be a very uncommon thing, because I think ESFJs are a very common type, and I do hope that, by giving my opinion about ESFJs, it would help a lot of people out. So, before I really get started on strengths and weaknesses, here are just some observations I want to point out about ESFJs. They make up for a huge number of the female population. If I'm not mistaken, the statistics say it was like somewhere close to 20%, followed by ISFJs, which is like another maybe 12 to 15%. Probably that's like 30% of women as it is. And besides that, ESFJs I feel personally, are quite underappreciated and underrated in terms of MBTI, which tends to favor intuitives more than sensors. And one last bit is that ESFJs, now when we are talking about dealing with ESFJs, no matter the advice I can give you, but when you are talking about dealing with an ESFJ which is extremely unhealthy or is very, very depressed, there's only so much that my advice can carry forward. So one thing that you need to understand, that ESFJs are extroverts. Now ENFJs, ENTPs and ENFPs have always been arguing about who are the more introverted or the most introverted amongst the extroverts. And I can assure you one thing, the ESFJs are nowhere near in this argument, because ESFJs from experience have been, to me, the more extroverted among the extroverts. They love to be around huge crowds of people. They adapt well to these situations, and I feel like the more an ESFJ gets social contact outside, the more healthy he or she is. So without further ado, let's really get into the strengths and weaknesses. Now, one of the strengths of ESFJs, they are called the caregivers, but besides just caregivers, and I think that that's a term that doesn't resonate well with a lot of men, I will call them warriors actually. Why warriors? Because they kind of, to me, they know no limits, and when they set their minds to something, that something is going to get done. They are extremely diligent, they are very, very passionate, and in a relationship where it's intimate, they are extremely giving, and they put the partner like on a pedestal, and their life's goal is to commit and to give to that partner. And when people have certain criticisms about ESFJs, when they say that, oh, ESFJs are dumb and all that stuff, I kind of disagree, because ESFJs, to me, they are harsh on themselves, but they are, the sense that I would say that they are not book smart, but they make up for it in their diligence, as I said earlier. So when you present an ESFJ with a certain bit of information or something, a new concept, they would study quite in detail, or if they care enough about you, they will actually pay attention and try to study that as much as possible. But however, because they feel like they are not usually very intelligent, they might not voice out their opinions when there are experts around. Whereas to me, there are other types like INTPs and ENTPs that take the smallest bit of information and blow it up and then describe it as if they know everything about the subject. And this is one thing that ESFJs don't really do. They don't act like they know things that they don't know. When they don't know something, they don't know something. They will say they don't know something. When they know something, they'll probably voice their opinions out. Additionally, when and this is one point of admiration, when ESFJ sets their mind to something, that something is going to get done. The ESFJs I know in my life, put it this, I know lots of INTPs and ENTPs who aren't doing anything with their lives. They like to criticize other sensor types. Oh, they're so dumb, they don't think ahead and stuff like that. But what are they doing at home? They are unemployed. They are or working very menial and unstimulating jobs and just criticizing other people. Whereas ESFJs, I know, most of them are doing really, really big things in their life, handling court cases on their own without the help of lawyers, or being like this rising up and coming person in this Christian youth leadership thing going on, where she's making music for everyone to hear, or holding high positions in like business consulting firms like Ernst & Young and such. You know, ESFJs, I feel like whenever they set their minds out and they're going to do something, they really go out, and because of that, you see ESFJ really going to like really far places in life. And this is one thing that I feel a lot of other types or intuitives do not admit. But I will say that this ESFJs, I give you credit, you guys are awesome in that way. Next thing I want to say is they are very practical, and besides house chores, because I think people don't really like the house chores or the housewife or house husband image so much nowadays, they are very good at organizing things and keeping things, making things as they should be. So besides just like house chores and stuff like that, we're also talking about maybe church events or HR or admin kind of stuff, which I believe are places where ESFJs thrive in. They take a huge amount of chaos or information in chaos, and they're very effective at organizing it and creating a very cohesive thing where you can finally go through it. If your files are all over the place, your accounts are all over the place, and you got an ESFJ, that ESFJ is going to arrange everything in proper. If you open up an ESFJ's wallet, I believe that all the notes, the bank notes and stuff like are arranged according to value, and all the faces are all facing the same way. Like, that's how I believe ESFJs are. ESFJs aren't going to like have a crumpled bill in their pocket and something like that. They are very organized people. Another thing is they are ridiculously and unfathomably loyal. They would really stick by their loved ones and their friends till the very, very bitter end, and they're really very willing to make huge sacrifices for their friends. If let's say you were a soldier, and this is something, if you were a soldier and you got kidnapped in like some prison, in like some POW in Iraq or something like that, and your commander or your commanding officer was like an ENTP, you are dead. You are not going to be cared about. Or he was an ENTJ, you are dead as fried chicken. But if you have an ESFJ as your commanding officer, your ESFJ will probably ride a helicopter, grab an M60 machine gun, and blast every single motherfucking Iraqi terrorist like to bits. They would single-handedly come down, John Rambo their way through everything, save your ass, pick you up, and run back to the helicopter and fly the fuck out of there. Like, ESFJs are that committed. When they do something with their friends, bam, it really gets done. So like movies like Flight Plan or Changeling, these are qualities like mothers with children suddenly went missing and then they had to fight against great odds to get their children back. These are qualities I recognize in ESFJs. So if you have an ESFJ on your side and they are a force of nature, you are lucky, because all you have to do is just ride the wave. Whereas when it comes to going against ESFJs, oh god, you will never have a more relentless opponent. It's incredibly difficult to go against them. Another strength that I would say they have, or another point of admiration, is that they are very expressive and they're very animated with their expressions. So because of that, you can read them and you can tell from their body language whether they're happy or they're sad. So it allows you to deal with them in according to the situation. Now, if let's say you're talking about an introvert who doesn't say much, who when you're happy or sad still same poker face, that's difficult to deal with. But if you're talking about ESFJ, when they're happy, you know, when they're happy, they're elated, when they're sad, they're miserable, you know, so you can tell and you can read their body language. And because of their such animated expressions, they have the ability, like ENFJs, to change the environment or the atmosphere around the room. So when everyone is, when we're having a shitty party where everyone's not having fun, you put an ESFJ there, everyone after that has fun. So that's one thing good about them. And because, they are very extroverted, so they can make friends with anyone in the party. Now this is the part I don't really like to go about, but there are quite a number of weaknesses with ESFJs, and this strongly ties with introverted sensing, which is usually one of the least desirable or least well written on, least redeeming quality in terms of functions in the MBTI. And the next one is inferior introverted thinking. So one thing about ESFJs, and people tend to note this a lot, is that they can be quite short-sighted. To me, I would classify an ESFJ as an ENFJ with tunnel vision. Yes, they do something, and when they go ahead. But when they go ahead, they kind of ignore all the other options and all the other deviations inside and other methods of making things right. They just stick to the one plan, they know plan A, and they go and pummel through everything else. However, even though this strong momentum and this kind of conviction, they also suffer from a lot of anxiety, and they are very worrisome, but they keep on worrying and worrying and worrying. And this leads them to be very harsh on themselves, because one thing about ESFJs is that they always want to meet the needs of people, but sometimes certain needs are really impossible, or certain needs can only be met under specific criteria. But because they didn't manage to achieve this and make this person happy or achieve this person's objective, and they lack the intuition to see why they couldn't have achieved it, they get hard on themselves, and they start blaming themselves. To me, an ESFJ could blame themselves over the most ridiculous of reasons, like I'm an ESFJ and I'm disappointed with myself because I was given a $1,000 grant to start up a national space program like NASA, but I failed to do it, so I'm harsh on myself, and I'm so disappointed in myself. It's like, whoa, what, $1,000 to start up NASA? Are you freaking kidding me? The fact that you can even build something out of it, it's impressive enough. Why are you being so harsh on yourself? They are really very harsh on themselves, and this is something that I think that a lot of people don't really like about them. And because they're harsh on themselves, and this ties in with introverted sensing, by the way, because they're harsh on themselves, they have a very high standard of what people should be capable of. And when people don't live up to those standards, or the ESFJ standards, let's say an ESFJ can do something very well, but other people might not be able to do that thing as well. Because of the ESFJ's inability or less prominent or less developed intuitive functions, they will sort of see as, why can't you do this thing that I so easily do? They care about people, but they do not empathize as easily as ENFJs do, and this is one of the flaws of ESFJs. Another thing is they're very reliant on structure. They're not very spontaneous. I think that backpacking with an ENFP or an ENTP can be fun, or an ESFP can be fun, but I think backpacking with an ESFJ, I don't think it even exists, because I don't think an ESFJ would really very readily go backpacking, or the idea is really, because there are so many variables and there's so many ways things could go wrong, and I think that ESFJ would be very rigid in that kind of sense. Travel to another country with no plan? I don't think so. Besides that, they are very emotionally intense. This can be a strength, but at times it's also a weakness. And when they are unhappy, they try to be subversive about it. Yes, I would say that even when ESFJs are unhappy and they're trying to hide it from me, I can tell that they're unhappy. And when I try to pry it out, they're still not going to say anything, and they're going to say they're fine. This fine is the same kind of fine that girlfriends usually tell their boyfriends, or ISFJs usually tell their boyfriends that, oh, you're going out with the boys and you're not going to hang out with me and stuff like that. It's fine. Oh, don't fucking do it. That means that's the wrong kind of fine. In ESFJs, they say they are fine a lot, but they're not. And additionally, they're not very good with criticisms, because they take it very, very personally. I think ENFJs as well also are not very good with criticisms. We do not respond very well to it. Another thing about ESFJs is that they're incredibly stubborn, second only to ISFJs or ISTJs, because of introverted sensing. And to me, they're so stubborn that it's quite impressive. Like, in a sense, if I would joke about it this way, if you were to give ESFJ a pear laced with cyanide and expect to assassinate that ESFJ with it, but the ESFJ took that pear and ate it and like felt there was nothing wrong with the pear, that ESFJ, out of the stubbornness that the pear is fine and edible, will probably not die from it because they are just so stubborn and unfaltering in their stance that the poison will fail to take effect because the poison just can't kill it. It's just too stubborn. This stomach refuses to die. Like, that's how impressive I think their stubbornness. So when they set their minds to something, it's gonna take like heaven and earth to move it. So yeah. Next thing is they're very selfless, and this is usually a good thing because being selfless means you accommodate for the needs of others, and this will usually improve your standing with other people. But ESFJs are, for the most, quite often, not to say for the most, but quite often, they take it a bit too far. They give on to other people, and not only do they give to one person, they give to multiple people. ESFJs, to me, are very, I know them for taking on too many like extra responsibilities which they shouldn't even be involved with in the first place. Like, imagine an ESFJ will have a very tough job, maybe a job that works them like 10 to 12 hours every day. Additionally, probably will take up extra musical instrument classes like guitar or piano and stuff like that. And additionally, will probably like decide to help a friend on a TV series or a video, like a video project thing. And additionally, will volunteer in church. And additionally, will probably decide to like go for some dance classes. And additionally, would, set a lot of plans to go like mountain hiking and stuff like that. ESFJs, sometimes they just pile on so many things on themselves that this will cause them to either explode or implode. Explode like they can't take it anymore, or implode as in I failed everyone and I'm so disappointed in myself. So sometimes this is a problem with ESFJs. So those are the weaknesses, and I'm going to talk to you about how to deal with ESFJs in general, especially if you've been unsuccessful dealing with them. I'm not saying that I'm an expert on them. I'm just giving my opinion of what works and what didn't work. I failed many times with ESFJs before, and I tried to learn from it. And from my experience on a general sense, this is what I can say about them. When it comes to dealing with ESFJs, I do not think that you'll be having a lot of difficulties with dealing with ESFJs if it's doing something that they asked you to do, or it's doing something that is part of the norm, or doing something ordinary using normal means, and just everything's fine, like expected and predictable. However, if you want to deal with ESFJs, like you want to do something which requires an unconventional means, but to get a better or the same results, this is where I think that ESFJs will struggle, because they're not very spontaneous and they're not very open to new ideas. So one thing that you need to help ESFJs understand is, because they care so much about how other people see them, and this is not criticism, but this is, ENFJs are also like that. They are very sensitive about their social standing and their moral compass. They need to know that they're doing the right thing because they're feelers. Sentiment is important to them, and their social standing is also important to them, extroverted feelers. So you need to help them understand first and foremost that when you want to do something, you're not going to conflict with their moral standing or their social standing, and that people aren't going to, they're not doing anything bad, and people aren't going to change the way they see them. And the ESFJ, even though you convince them and you told them all these things, the ESFJ, depending on how close you are with the ESFJ will most likely not accept what you say as truth. But because the ESFJ is an extroverted feeler, a dominant extroverted feeler, he or she will give you a chance to prove them wrong. Just be open-minded just because they care about you. And in this period of time when they give you that trust to do what you want to do, which is to them something that's completely wrong or quite wrong, you need to really put your money where your mouth is and pull it off. Because once you fail, once you try and then you're not sure and then you botch it up, and ESFJ will remember that for quite a long time. Whereas if you succeed, but don't try to rub it into their faces. Like, yeah, you told me I couldn't do it this way, I did it this way in your fucking face. Do not do that with them. Just be like, yay, we got this, celebrate it as a group, we did it. Do not tell them like, yeah, I did it, you didn't, ha ha ha, you better listen to me, I'm in charge now, I'm the captain now. No, screw that shit. Don't bother with doing that unless you want to ruin your relationship or your trust with the ESFJ. Next point of ESFJ is do not bother having prolonged arguments or debates with them, because I feel like during these debates, usually arguing in ESFJ, we always end up going in loops. And I feel like the longer these arguments prolong, the more negative things will be said, because like unlike INTPs or ENTPs that take criticisms quite well, or it doesn't hurt them as much, ESFJs take criticisms very poorly. So when you criticize them, or when you're in an argument, criticisms are bound to be thrown around all the time, and it really gets personal the longer you're in a argument. And ESFJs, even though it could be a professional one, they will most likely turn the argument into quite a personal one. So what you need to do is, if you feel like you're not making any new ground in your argument, move away from it. 15 minutes is enough. Don't take it to hours and stuff like that. I've argued with my ESFJ parent for hours before. I've argued with my ESFJ parent for 8 hours before. Basically, I remember it was at night, and then when the conversation was done, it was morning. I was like, whoa, I could see the sunrise. Don't bother. And that argument, no matter how impressive it was, it only served to hurt both of us, and especially the ESFJ more. So you don't really want to damage your relationship with the ESFJ in that way. So from another thing is, when you're criticizing an ESFJ, do not criticize them in a traditional way or in a way that a lot of other types are fine with, but criticize them from like a constructive point. Like, don't be like, hey, you messed this up, you fucked this up, or stuff, or you did wrong and stuff. Don't criticize them from a negative way, but advise them in a positive way, in a constructive way. Like, hey, I noticed this happened. It wasn't the desired outcome, but let's try doing this, and this, and perhaps from here, or we could improve this, and this, and then we'll get a better outcome. Yes, you have to sugarcoat your words when dealing with an ESFJ, and if you find that this is an issue, then don't be with an ESFJ. Simple as that. But if you want to improve your relationship with an ESFJ, you have to sugarcoat how you say things to them. Do not say things in straightforward, no, you fucked up, do this. You have to sugarcoat, go the other way, work around it. Next thing is, okay, one thing about ESFJs is, as I said earlier, is that they don't give unto themselves a lot. They are very selfless. They give unto other people more than they give unto themselves. They prioritize the needs of others more. So convincing them to reward themselves is going to be difficult, but it's also necessary at the same time, because if an ESFJ feels underappreciated, or their needs are not being met and they know it, or it just suddenly collapses onto them, they will kind of be like very angry and say like, oh, you don't really care about me, or even if I'm die and stuff like that, you're not gonna like look out for me, and you're not gonna bother with me and stuff. So one thing, but at the same time, when you tell them like, okay, you're with them, you say, oh, I want to do this for you, I want to do that, I want to buy you dinner and stuff like that, they're like, no, don't do that for me, because it's like they'll feel bad and stuff like that. ESFJs are so good at feeling bad. So what I will convince you to do is you work around them in another way. Don't appeal to their SI or their introverted sensing, but appeal to their dominant extroverted feeling, in the sense where you approach them and say that, hey, you do a lot of great things for me, and I really appreciate that. It makes me super happy. However, I noticed that, okay, and let's say she likes a dress, let's say you have an ESFJ girlfriend that likes a certain dress. Hey, I see you like this dress, and you've given me so much, so I want to buy you this dress, or I want you to buy this dress for yourself, because I like to see you happy, you look happy in this dress, and I think that you really look good in this dress. So, they would understand that you're trying to get them to reward themselves, and they kind of still wouldn't do it, but because of extroverted feeling as their dominant function, I've discussed this with an ESFJ friend, and we've all agreed that, yeah, why not, I'll do it, I guess. And really, when you get them to reward themselves enough, or when you show that you care about them and their needs, let me assure you that you are going to reap a lot of benefits out of this. Conventional benefits, but still benefits nonetheless. Who doesn't like benefits? Especially the ones of sexual nature. So the next thing is, Okay, like even let's say when you're talking, that's for a girl. Like if let's say you're talking about a guy, ESFJ guy who always puts the need of his girlfriend before his and stuff like that. You could, and then he sees like the new PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, he wants that thing, but he doesn't want to do it because he feels like if I get this, he doesn't know. Sometimes I feel like ESFJs don't really know why they don't want to do it, but they just don't want to do it. So you can go like as a girlfriend or a good girlfriend, you can be like, I like it when you're happy and when you play video games, and I want to watch you play as I want to watch you play this video game. That will put your ESFJ, I think, on cloud 9. So that's a great thing that you might want to try approaching it from. Another thing is when you're trying to use this kind of subtle manipulations to get your ESFJ to do something else that they normally wouldn't do, don't be very mysterious and subtle and too mysterious and subtle out of it that people cannot read you and then they start doubting where you're coming from. If you are going to resort to tactics like that to convince your ESFJ to reward themselves or to do things for themselves, be obvious about it. Let them understand that give them the impression that they can read you and that they are not like kept out of the dark or they are being deliberately or negatively manipulated. Let them be under the impression that you're trying to trick them, but even though that that they know that you're trying to trick them, they'll be like, yeah, why not? They'll go along with it, I think, if they care enough about you. But don't be too subtle about it where you think that, well, it's really manipulation. That's when distrust starts to come in. It's like, why does he have to resort to tactics like that to convince me to do things? So yes, be expressive and animated with your manipulations so that they can get a read on you. And the last point I want to bring up, and this is very important for a lot of ESFJs, I noticed. I've seen this in almost all, I think not almost, actually all the ESFJs I've been with. I noticed this very predominantly in them. ESFJs really want to know how you feel about things. So if you are very close with an ESFJ, let's say like either one of them is your family member or one of them is your lover, one thing that's important to them is that they know what's going on in your life. So if let's say you come back from work and then you just straight away just read the newspaper and don't talk to them, that's a bad way to handle an ESFJ. ESFJ wants to know A to Z what happened. You tell the story, let them hear everything. They want to know, they want to hear. It makes them happy, like they want to be like the good husband or the good housewife, and they hear and they care about your needs and stuff like that. And this also allows them to open up about their stuff, because ESFJs, I know that they want to tell you about the day, or they want to tell you about what's been going on and what's happening. But when you are disinterested in talking about your own day, or when you're disinterested about talking about the day in general, it kind of puts them in a position where they want to talk to you about it, but you seem like you don't really care or are interested, so they don't really want to put you in a situation where you're doing something you don't want to do. So I would advise that if you want to make your ESFJ happy, tell them about your day, tell them about what's going on in your life and everything, and this will make them happy because it will make them feel like you trust them. And the important thing after that is also it opens up the ability for them to be vocal and to tell you about their day, which is something they actually really want to do. I've never met an ESFJ that doesn't want to like tell me a lot of stories or what happened and stuff like that. ESFJs, they're very good storytellers, and they've always very expressive, telling you all sorts of things, and I feel like you can learn a lot from them, especially in terms of the practical stuff. So yeah, ESFJ colleagues, those are people like I know that they cook for the entire office so that everyone doesn't have to go for lunch and stuff like that. They're very giving. They, as parents, wow, an ESFJ father might not buy you an iPhone, but if the situation was dire enough and it was the right decision and it would help, an ESFJ father will more likely buy you a car, or a good one, not a sports car, but a functional car. And that's the thing, ESFJs want to do the right thing. They don't want to overdo it, they want to do it just right. So yeah, but anyways, keeping your ESFJ happy will make you happy. So I guess that's it about ESFJs and how to deal with them. Any kind of like discussions or topics you guys want me to talk about, feel free to bring it up. Let me know in the comment section and or the forums wherever I'm posting this up. And even if it's not about other types, you can even ask me about like ENFJ based stuff, because I've been doing MBTI for quite a while now. You can even ask me the really mundane stuff that we get all the time, like where do you find ENFJs, when how to talk to an ENFJ, or how to get an ENFJ boy or girl to like you, and all that stuff. And I'll try my best to answer. But as for now, that's it, and thank you very much for sticking around with me, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.